Okay, so good afternoon to you all. Welcome to our first event of 2020 as the University of Waterloo African Graduate Student Association. We are excited to kick off this series, which spotlights organizations and individuals of African descent in the Waterloo region as a way to celebrate and learn from our community members. So the University of Waterloo African Graduate Student Association has been operational for a number of years, and this is a continuation of the incredible work that has been done so far. Given the impact of COVID, we hope to better support our members through social, academic, and wellness programming. My name is Margaret Matumba, and I am a PhD candidate in the School of Public Health and Health Systems. And my research focuses on affordable fertility care in sub-Saharan Africa. I am also a member of the African Graduate Student Association, and I am originally from Uganda. So before my co-facilitator, Christine, and the panelists introduce themselves, I would like to go through some housekeeping details. This session is 1 hour, including our discussion and questions will be towards the end. We will also be recording this session to allow members to see it later on our YouTube page. This is a safe space. It's a safe and inclusive space. So we encourage you to remain respectful at all times. Please your microphone until it's time for questions. And if you look at the bottom of your screen, you will see a participant function. Please open it so that you can engage with us. You'll be able to see raise hand, yes, and a no, and we'll use these three functions to engage with you. Throughout the discussion, you can also put your questions in the chat box. And during the Q&A session, if you'd like to vocalize your question, just click on the raise hand function. If you're a graduate student, we encourage you to please use the chat to let us know which program you're taking and where you're connecting from. And if you are not a graduate student, please let us know what you have been up to, what's keeping you busy, and where you're connecting from. Finally, please follow us on our social media platforms, which I will add to the chat box in a minute, and to find out more about the exciting events that we have coming up. Also, if you'd like to be involved with the African Graduate Student Association, please complete the membership form, which I will also add to the chat. We'd love to have you on board. Now over to Christine to kick off our discussions today.
Right, welcome everyone. Thank you, Margaret, for such a fantastic lead-in to today's session. I also want to welcome our panelists, which I'll do a bit more formally later. My name is Christine Edet, and I am at the moment a PhD candidate in public health at the University of Waterloo. My research focuses on the social determinants of women's health and well-being, with particular attention to factors that affect healthy nutrition, healthy work, and mental health. I am African, proudly African, with roots in Nigeria. So I'd want to, at this moment, welcome our awesome panelists. I'll invite them individually to briefly introduce themselves, starting with Jean-Claude and ending with Wokia. Over to you, Jean-Claude. You can unmute yourself.
Thank you so much. I truly appreciate this. Is a great privilege for me to be here today. My name is Jean-Claude Mutuco. Yeah, so currently I'm a public servant working for Innovation, Science and Economic Development, I said, formerly Industry Canada. And yeah, I consider myself a community enthusiast, a person who just loves to build bridges. I'm also an alumni from the University of Waterloo, Master of Public Service 2018, and I'm so glad to be here today. Thank you.
I believe I'm going next. Hi, my name is Owodunni. My background is in management consulting. I moved to Canada 5 years ago. Currently doing an MBET program at the University of Waterloo. I do not have a background in community advocacy or anything of that nature. I think it was just, there was a need. I noticed the need, and there was always someone else should handle it. They should take care of it. And when the day didn't take care of it, somehow, some way, my wife and I decided to jump in and figure it out as we go. So it's a great pleasure being here.
Would you unmute yourself, Wokia? You're muted still.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay. So my name is Wokia Kumase, originally from Cameroon, and I have been living here in the region since 2010. Came in from Germany. I have a PhD in economic development with specialty in gender bias in development, poverty, and income inequality. I have been a lecturer at the University of Waterloo since 2012, but before that, I was also a lecturer at the University of Western Ontario in London. I'm also a member of the Cameroonian Association here, known under its acronym ROWAC, and also one of its former presidents. So it's a pleasure for me to join you today and share my experience in trying to, let's say, put Africa out there in this region, working with all other associations that I could find, even those that are outside the region. So I have a lot of experience doing this. I did it in Germany, doing it here again, and I'll be very, very glad to share my experience with the rest of the panelists and those who are watching. Thank you.
Awesome. Those were really, really concise, brief introductions that give us the opportunity, the seeds for delving deeper into your story. In the next few minutes, starting again from Wokia, because you just said you'd love to share your story, we'd like to ask you to just go a little bit more into your journey here to Canada. What was your experience like moving here? And what's been your experience with the educational system here in this region, in Canada, and this region particularly? And if you would also share, so like 3 parts: what was your story moving here, your experience with the educational system, and some highs and lows that you've experienced in your time since you've been here. So we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Jean-Claude, and Ayo can finish up.
Okay, thank you. So my story moving here would be based in Germany. So I left Cameroon about 20 years ago and went to Germany for further studies, where I obtained my master's and PhD, as I mentioned, in development economics. And like all responsible students, once you start approaching the end of your studies, you start thinking, what's going to be my next step? Am I going back home? Am I staying in Germany? Or what other opportunities are out there? So it was a very, very difficult question to answer, especially knowing that at the time in Germany, staying there after your studies wasn't that easy, because based on the immigration system, as a student, you were only allowed to stay there during the course of your studies. So once you were done with studying, you had to leave. Okay. So going now back to Cameroon, things were not very clear. Most, as we said, we are all Africans. You might want to go back. The family does not want you to return because they don't understand what you're coming to do there. There's nothing happening here, and so on. So in my university town, we had a group of students from Cameroon that had completed before me and moved to Canada. So it was like a thing that once you were approaching the end of your master's or your PhD, you were already applying for this permanent residency program. So that was an option which I took, not knowing how Canada was, only from the bits and pieces that we get in the media. So I decided to give it a try. I had friends from university. I had a few family members that had moved. So it was some sort of a soft landing for me. I came into this community and I stayed here because those who left my university, some of them were based here in the region. That's how I found myself here. So I may not have gone where I intended to go, but I think I have ended up where I need to be. It has been a fun 10 years. I have learned a lot. I came in here and like everybody else, I was shocked by the intensity of the winter. I spent 10 years in Germany and I thought I knew what winter was all about, but winter in Canada is on a different scale. So I had to adapt to that. I was also amazed at the welcoming nature of Canadians. It was a little bit different. This is not to say that Germans are not welcoming, but Germans are people who keep to themselves. They might not really approach you or talk to you if they don't know you. So they keep to themselves, and it has nothing to do with maybe disliking you or something, but they are not just as open as Canadians are. So that interaction with members of the community was a little bit different, and something which I appreciated coming from Africa, where you greet people you don't know once you're walking on the street. So for us, as an elder, you have to say hello. You don't just walk by people like that or your neighbors without saying hello. So it's something that I appreciated when I got here. And I had to make my way professionally. I'm coming from a different educational background. I have my certificates, which are not Canadian certificates. I never attended university here in Canada. So how do I get into the system? Talking to those who came before me, it was a challenge. A lot of them had to come here and divert from what they studied. Maybe they took up some courses just to maybe get a job and so on, and they have stayed in those positions and actually not practicing what they studied, got their PhDs in Germany, because it was really difficult. So what I started doing was sending out a request for an informational interview. So I simply went online, looked at the universities in the region, Guelph, London, Waterloo, and wrote to professors in the Department of Economics, looked at what their specialty was, and those who were involved in issues surrounding development, growth, poverty. I sent a friendly letter requesting for an informational interview just to find out how the Canadian educational system works and attach my resume. And during the course of that research, I realized that one of the economists that I had cited abundantly in my thesis was a professor at the University of London. So I sent her an email and she asked me to come over. I went there, we had a chat in her office, and God behold, I discovered that she was classmates with my supervisor in Germany, and they both worked at the World Bank. So it was a very friendly discussion. And then when I went home, I opened my laptop just to do some work, and I saw that she had asked me if I wanted to teach some courses at the University of Western Ontario. So that's how I managed to get my foot through the door, and then I have just been within the university circle since then. So I am going to wrap this up by maybe highlighting some of the differences I saw between the German educational system and the Canadian system. Again, there is a level of closeness, friendship between professors and students here in Canada that doesn't exist in Germany. Okay? It's different from what we have in Africa, where students are often even scared to approach their professors. In Germany, you can approach them, but students don't have that closeness you have here. You could go there once in a while, but you would only go there during office hours. But yeah, there is that friendliness, that camaraderie that exists between professors and students that didn't exist in Germany. Secondly, the amount of resources given to students in Canada, live centers, where you could go to get help. In Germany, you're considered adults. Once you get to university, it is your responsibility to make sure that you succeed. So you don't have all these extra resources that are placed for students, given to students to maybe help them if they are struggling, that I see being offered, which is something that is very good over here. And of course, you know the problem of fees. That's where Germany has an edge. There is no fees in Germany. When I say no fees, you pay a registration fees and some administrative cost, coming up to maybe when I was there, I paid about 110 euros per semester. So for an academic year, 2 semesters, that comes to maximum 300 euros compared to what students pay here. And I would consider myself an international student because I wasn't a German citizen. So for now, that is how I can summarize my transition from Germany to Canada. The shocks from climate, I'm still not able to adapt. The change differences I saw in the academic system, some very good things here and not so good things. A lot is being given to students here. The German system, you have only classes, and then you have a period of about 8 weeks exams. Here you have, most of the time, students have to do quizzes, small group works that are graded at 5, 10%, and so on. I had to adapt to that. And one last thing which I also found surprising preparing my course outline was that when I left out putting a textbook on the course outline, the students were always asking me, what should I buy for this course? I completed my studies in Germany, and I think I could say I bought maximum just 2 or 3 textbooks. So it's something different. Yes, students need a textbook, and in Germany it was not the case. So those are some of the differences I found when I came over here. Thank you.
Awesome, Wokia. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. Just before the next panelist speaks, that's Jean-Claude, I'd like to welcome everyone who has just joined us. I'd like to say, take a moment, introduce yourselves in the chat function. Let us know who you are, where you're connecting from, what your connection is to the University of Waterloo or the Waterloo region, as the case may be. Also, as our panelists share their stories, if anything in these stories resonates with you, just put a yes in the chat function, indicate what aspect of the story resonates with you, how it resonates. Let's just keep this as engaging as we can. Jean-Claude, would you like to share?
Absolutely. So I'm still trying to figure out with my technology here. Yeah, thank you so much, Kumase, for such a interesting story. I didn't know that about you, which is really, really interesting, and I thank you for sharing. Yeah, so myself, so I moved to Canada when I was 17 years old, and that was in 2008. So a lot of those, running ups and downs, my mom did all of that. So I'm very, very honored and privileged to have had at least a parent to, take care of all those, transitional informations, like appointments and all that. So that was very helpful for me. So I just had to focus on, dealing with my high school. So I was 17. I started, I had to go back to high school, which is a St. Mary's High School. And that was a big kind of like transition for me. Coming from Africa, which, by the way, to be more specific, I came from Uganda. I'm Congolese, but my family had been refugees in Uganda. So the Ugandan system, again, I was so used to it. I had been in Uganda since I was 9. So coming to Canada, everything was different. It was different. Obviously, the way of speaking, I had to adjust that just to come to, high school. And I'll say I was very much sheltered by my teachers because I became very friendly with them. And I think a lot of it was due to the discipline that we had got before coming to Canada. Many people told us, Jean-Claude, you're going there, yeah, please respect your mother, X, Y, Z. So when I came here to high school, I was very, very focused on succeeding. So I met all my teachers, basically my friends, and they really guided me through those first 2 years of high school, St. Mary's High School. And it was really helpful. So after that, again, I had to take a bunch of courses, night school, summer school, just to catch up with the grades to go to university, because I really wanted to go to university. For some reason, I felt like I was too old to be in high school, So I had just turned, I was 17, turning 18. So for me, I feel like, I can't fit here. I'm an adult, I have to go to university. So I worked really hard, like I said, night school, summer school, just trying to catch those grades. I managed to do that, which secured me a spot at the University of Windsor. University of Windsor, I stayed there for 4 years, again, just hammering on, doing my best, again, to be a good student. And then after that, I graduated in 2014. I went to Conestoga College. I was thinking about law school, but I wasn't so sure because, of course, I had accumulated a huge student loan, OSAP. Those people who are in Canada might relate to that. So I thought, before going to law school, let me try this paralegal thing and see how the law field works. So I did a paralegal program. I passed it. I got my license. So now I'm a licensed paralegal. But then I said, if I'm doing all these courses, why don't I just do a master's? After that, I registered at the University of Waterloo in 2016. Again, I pushed on, and then I graduated in 2018. So I'll try to say that my story coming to Canada has been all about seizing opportunities aggressively, and that has been something that was instilled in me by, of course, my mother. I had lost my father in Uganda when I was like 14 years old, so I knew that I had a parent that I had to make proud. So we kept on pushing and pushing, and then after that, transitioning from university to professional life, that was kind of hard because I didn't have mentors. And I think one thing about,
it appears Jean-Claude's feed is a little frozen just now. So we're going to give it a minute to see if he can reconnect with us. Jean-Claude, if you hear us, your feed is a little. Welcome back.
I'm on there. Okay, I was saying, I don't know where I left off, but Dr. Kumase, made a very good point, saying that in Canada, professors are very much, there is that sense of camaraderie. And as I was pursuing my, university and, trying to succeed academically, I forgot to make those connections. I forgot to use those resources on campus. So transitioning from my professional life, from my academic life to my professional life became a little bit challenging because here I was with these grades and, diplomas and XYZ, and no one really cared in the real life. So, it was really hard to transition into that, professional life. But again, I just went back to my discipline and, my ambition to make my mother proud. So I did odd jobs here and there. I worked in a factory. I worked in a window washing company. I worked at an oil changing company. I was changing oil with all these degrees and all that, but still I stayed focused. And then after that, I applied to some jobs within the government. And finally, in 2008, I was able to, make that breakthrough. Sorry, 2018, I was able to make that breakthrough. I started working for, again, innovation, science, and economic development. And honestly, since then, it's been great. It's been really good. And yeah, I look forward to, hopefully, providing some, I guess, tips here and there on how I was able to do that. But generally, my Canadian experience has been very much kind of like a mixed of both. But I'll say coming here at a very young age gave me a very big, I'll say, opportunities because like I said, I pursued my education. I was able to make those connections with my teachers who I think instilled that element of community in me. And that's something that I continue to pursue. Yes, I may be working for the federal government right now, and yeah, it's a stable job, but I usually make sure that I come back to my community to volunteer, to mentor other youth so that they don't have to go through what I had to go through in terms of, not knowing how to make those connections, how to write my resumes and all that. So that has been my story, but so far everything has been good. I'm glad I'm in this country. But having said that, being in Canada is not enough. I feel like there is still that need for us to connect. And that's why, I feel like this platform itself is very important because we get to connect with people who have like us, have the same experience, and we can learn from each other. I'm going to stop there for now and, yeah, see where we go now.
Thank you so much, Jean-Claude. That was so interesting to hear. Again, I'd just like to reiterate, if anything in these stories resonates with you, drop it in the chat and let us know. Just before Ayo begins to speak, Ayo, I'd just like you to, in addition to reflecting on the themes that Wokia and Jean-Claude have spoken on, transition us into the next part of our conversation, the meat of why we're here, which is really the importance of coming together as community, as associations. So when you've shared your story with us, take us into that journey around community organizing and why this is important. Jean-Claude has spoken to some of these themes, and it's a perfect opportunity for us to focus on the real purpose for our session here today. Take it away, Ayo.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I don't think my story is as wonderful as both of them, Jean-Claude and Wokia. My story is boring. I did my undergrad in the US, and after doing my undergrad there, I moved back to Nigeria, and I lived and worked in Nigeria for about 8 years. I was a general manager at a company. My wife was working at one of the big 5. And one day we're driving back home. It's 11 p.m. We're stuck in traffic. And she is probably about 5 months pregnant at that point. And she said, do you really want to raise a child in this? We're not going to see our kids. We're getting home at 11:30 at night, leaving at 5:30 in the morning. anybody from Lagos or from Nigeria, I'm sure you know the Lagos traffic, an average of 2.5 hours just to swing by to say hi to someone, talk less of going to work. So that was when we made our decision that we were going to move. And luckily, she already had her PR. So she moved here before me. She was here for about a year, and then I joined her afterwards. I was lucky after I landed and got my work permit within, I think within a month, I met someone who connected me with someone else who owns a consulting firm. And I started working with the consulting firm. So for me, that was an amazing privilege because suddenly I had a chance, the consulting firm, they consult and train for board of directors of organizations across Canada. For me, it was just amazing because I got to be in those rooms where, you know, decisions, strategic decisions are made for organizations. I was the only Black person in the room. So I think that's when there was a lot of concern. And usually the ladies in the room were either the HR person or the marketing person. So the stereotypical organization was what I saw on a regular, consistent basis. But I think it also built my confidence because not only was I in the room observing, I had a chance to also speak, to also train, to also have great conversations with these people. So for me, I thought that was a great start. I moved from that organization and I ventured into a retail company called Farm Boy to lead the Southwest region in training and development. And I guess I would say that's how my story has gone. I decided to do an MBET program this year. I started my own consulting firm and last year, and COVID has hit hard, as we all know. So we all decided, as we've lost some clients and things of the like, well, let me take this time to really just upgrade myself and focused on a full-time dive in, get this thing done to be able to better understand businesses. And I want to line that up with why we're here today. Sometime in 2016, after I moved here, I read a book called The Jewish Phenomenon. If you've ever had a chance to, or you've never had a chance to rather, I think you should try to check out that book and read it. And what it talked about was just a lot of research done of the Jews in different communities all over the world, and how the Jews within a certain amount of years, they're able to go into a community and they start dominating. So whether it's Hollywood or New Jersey or in different parts of the world, they just have a way of coming together, one, and then really getting themselves to another level. And I think I would say that as a Nigerian, as a Yoruba tribe man, we're raised to be individualistic. You do your own thing, you know, you struggle to make it through, you know, you get to the top, you celebrate, you don't think about community service. That was never something that was part of our culture or our nature as a people, I would say. So after reading that book, I was challenged to really get involved in the community. And we started to think about that and talk about that. That's my wife and I. And we decided, okay, well, let's find a way to get involved. So I joined NIRO, Nigerians in the region of Waterloo. And that's where I started doing my service, community service, and then just expanded and moved outside of NIRO and decided to be a part of other organizations as well. So for me, the inspiration came from that book, the power and the unity of a people and how far we can go as a people when we work together and we leverage each other's strengths. When we have a vision for our community and we build a community that we're looking for, not waiting for other people to build that community for us. So through that, for me, it was just about how do I network with other people? How do I bring other people together? And how do we create a vision that we can all pursue together while we do this thing called life?
Awesome. And so just a follow-up with you, Ayo, you indicated that you've recognized the value of community building. I would want you to reflect a little bit more on what it adds to us, how it helps us build as a collective, drawing lessons from the book you referenced, you know, The Jewish Phenomenon. talk about the organization that you now affiliate with, what its missions and values are. And when you've shared briefly on that, I'd like Jean-Claude to take it away and talk about his association as well, what they do, and Wokia will round that up for us. Again, if you're participants here, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Engage with us in the chat function, drop your questions, drop your comments, drop your messages. We're reflecting on all of this together. Thank you, Ayo.
Thank you. So usually when an immigrant moves into Canada, there's this thing called the transition period. And basically it's from when you land to getting back to where you were, wherever you came from. So if you're a director or a manager or a VP, there's usually a transition period of 5 years. Sometimes those 5 years, just like Jean-Claude was sharing earlier, you're washing dishes, you're cleaning, you're doing all sorts of odd jobs just to get by while you're going to school, getting a diploma and those types of things. For me, the vision behind what I'm doing now, or my mission rather, is how do we reduce that 5-year transition to, let's say, 3 or 2 years to get people up and running as quickly as possible. I'll give you 2 examples and then I'll talk about the coalition. For example, we had a friend who just moved last year with his family, and I went to visit and I noticed, with the fat kids, with 3 kids, they have to take the bus. They've never been through the winter period, and something that could literally take them 2 days to accomplish, getting a health card and all those things, it was taking them weeks because they have to plan everything with the kids, figure out how the bus works and all that. But luckily I was working for a company and I had a corporate car. So I gave them my car to be using. I'm like, hey, as long as I'm working for this company, why don't you have the car? And literally within 2 days, they were able to accomplish so much, compared to the 2 months prior to that with kids. And that's the power of community. One person hands over and the other person can use it. And then they are able to get themselves up and running and do the same thing for the next person. And we can multiply that effect as we move on. Right now, I'm part of an organization called the Coalition of African Associations. The president couldn't make it today. He was supposed to be able to join. His name is Tapiwa. And the goal was we just wanted to bring together the different African associations in the region. And the idea is, how can we work better together to support our people? And the goal of the coalition is, how can we stand in the back of the associations and support you as best as possible so you can shine and you can help your people as well. The coalition is going to be merging under the African Canadian Association of the Waterloo Region before the end of the year. So you should all be getting more detail about that sometime real soon. I'm really excited about that. Right now, we have 14 African associations that are part of the coalition. I'm also a mentor with the YMCA program. And please, if anybody doesn't know about it, I think it's good to share with your community. The YMCA program helps immigrants that just arrived in Canada to find jobs. And they're located in the Kitchener-Waterloo area. So the goal is you're paired with an immigrant and you try to help them find a job within 6 months in their field. So there's a lot of planning, a lot of strategy, reviewing the resume together, getting them ready for interviews. You do mock interviews, those types of things. And then you send them forth and hope for the best. And hopefully in 6 months, you can find something. It really helps people get up and running as quickly as possible.
Thank you so much, Ayo. Jean-Claude, would you like to reflect in more specific detail on the particular association that you represent, how it came to be, and some of the achievements you've recorded since you've been running and challenges that you've had to overcome?
Yes, thank you. So I'm here on behalf of the Congolese community of Waterloo Region and Wellington, and including Guelph as well. And obviously, I'm not the president, but this organization has been around for a while. But as you know, a lot of Congolese are French speaking, and when people from Congo arrive in Ontario, most of them, the first thing they want to do is like move to either Quebec or Winnipeg, because our communities are bigger there. So this association was basically created to bring all these people together, because Congo again is such a big country, like so many African countries as well, with so many groups, so many languages. So I feel like sometimes we had divisions. We didn't know who to come to and how to associate together. So this group was created, I think, about 20 years ago, to just try and build a uniting platform where people could actually come together and just under one umbrella, which is the DRC. So we'll say we're not really that structured. So a lot of our activities are really centered on special events, like the Congolese independence. Sometimes we do Canada Day as well. But again, it's just celebrating, but also focusing a lot on young kids and reinstilling that African pride, but also pride in the Congolese community. So last time I had a meeting with our president, we're looking into focusing a little bit more on mentorship and helping our young kids kind of like learn from their older brothers, so including myself and from my own story. That's the main focus going forward, is really on the youth and helping them transition into either professional life or academic field as well. So again, it's a very young group that needs structuring, and at some point I will invite each and every one of you to consider being part of it. And just if you want to learn about something, I'll give you more information about the organization, but also how you can get in contact with the president. So that has been one of our main challenges, the structure, but also, keeping our youth in one kind of like in a straightforward kind of like road, because like I shared in my story, coming here at a young age can be quite challenging, because you are caught in between two worlds, right? So are you Canadians or are you Congolese? Personally, I am Congolese who spent a lot of my years in Uganda, but I'm also Canadian. So where do I belong, right? So a lot of our kids, I feel like, are very much kind of like confused, or they may feel like it's a very confusing time in their lives. So we're trying to create something that will hopefully guide them. So personally, my story is quite a long story, but over the years, from my high school, university, and just my current situation, I realized that mentorship was very important. Like I told you, coming here as a 17-year-old was very different, because you have all these expectations, pressures, African tradition, God knows what. But then again, it's really hard to get lost. So I started something called Urban Youth Leadership Alliance, and that was in 2014. And the aim was basically just to create a platform on which young Africans or Black youth can sit down and talk about their stories, either with police brutality or just, expectations and, parents, pressures. And we've been going since then. It's been 6 years. With COVID, it's kind of like challenged us a little bit, but that was the platform that we created as well. I've also worked with the Working Center. The Working Center was actually the organization that made my first resume. And when we talk about community, I think about three main things really that we have to focus on, or what I'm trying to address, which is resources, tools, but also inviting people. Canada has a lot of opportunities, but so many people don't know that they exist. So personally, and all the organizations that I'm affiliated with, we're just trying to make people know that these tools exist, but also invite them to find out about those tools. Because I feel like if we have tools, but no one knows about their existence, then it's really, really useless, right? So my goal right now is just to vocalize about those tools, to promote about those tools, also invite people to come and share on those tools. Again, I look forward to, continue on that, but I'm just gonna, stop there because, I feel like time is flying. But yeah, that's basically it. The Congolese Association, Urban Youth Leadership Alliance, and the Working Center. Those are the organizations that I'm very affiliated with. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jean-Claude. And you're absolutely right. Time is flying. I think that Maggie and I probably underestimated how deeply we could get into the conversations. But just to remind us, this is a series of conversations. It's not a one-off thing. So please, we invite you to drop suggestions in the chat for other conversations, how we can amplify or continue in these conversations. We also want to give participants a chance to ask their questions of you, the panelists. So right after Wokia speaks for the next 5 minutes or so, we're going to try to make sure that we've got some time at the end to take questions from everyone in the group. Thank you very much again, Jean-Claude. Wokia, it's yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I would want to piggyback on a few things that Jean-Claude and Ayo mentioned as they spoke. To start with, it has to deal with the area of academia. Jean-Claude pointed out a few issues that I have observed over the years with African students in the community. Being at university, I have noticed that they shy away from making those relationships with their professors. As PhD candidates, you're forced to do that. You have to talk to your supervisor, so you naturally have those relationships. But as undergrads, it's very, very important that you cultivate those relationships. You make your professors know you. And so office hours are very important. So if we have people here in the panel, not in the panel, but in the virtual audience listening, please, and you're studying, please make sure you go to office hours, talk to your professors, address issues, let them know you, because it is always amazing when students send you an email asking for a letter of recommendation and you don't even know who they are. And they simply tell you they took a course with you maybe 2 years ago, one course, and they're expecting a letter of recommendation. It doesn't work that way. So it's nice that if you cultivate that relationship, it would be much easier to get those letters because you would need them. And of course, you might even want to do a PhD. And at times you need to get somebody to supervise you. And it's because they know your work, they know your level of seriousness at the undergraduate level that they would accept to be your supervisors. Okay, so you don't just complete and then say, okay, please, can you supervise me? I want to do a PhD. You have to build those relationships. So it's very, very important. And this means that you don't only talk about class material. You can go to your supervisor and discuss issues of public interest, something that's out there in the news, and ask them what they think and share your opinion and so on, especially if it's related to class materials. And I think most professors would appreciate that. I also want to touch on what Ayo said when he talked about reducing transition time. This is also something that is very important, and he shared his personal experience on how he helped a Nigerian that came in. And this is the main reason why we actually formed the Cameroonian Association in the region. This was to give a platform for newcomers to be able to acclimatize faster in a new country, know that there are different ways of doing things here, talk about some of the issues that we as Cameroonians or Africans in general face when we move over here, and help them integrate the community faster. Because when people come and they live in their respective silos, it doesn't help anybody. You miss opportunities, as like the other panelists already pointed out. Individualism that we have cultivated for so many years in Africa takes us nowhere. We have to learn to work together as a team. So people are working in different associations, and within the Cameroonian Association, we have always been of the opinion that we should start by collaborating with other associations. I am not discrediting any work that's being done by an umbrella association, but once we partner with the Nigerian Association, we have done stuff with the Nairo. I remember, I think 2 or 3 years ago, a group of us were sent to represent the association. The Nigerians were celebrating their Independence Day, and we were sent there to represent the association. We worked with the Liberian Association. We learned a lot from them, and I think they also learned a lot from us. We also organized these soccer tournaments where other associations come to participate, because this is the only way we can get to know each other. What I also found amazing is that when I left Cameroon, I saw that within about a year, I had visited maybe 3 to 4 European countries. But I left Cameroon without even visiting Nigeria, that's close there, or Chad or Gabon that surrounds me, for maybe other reasons. And because we don't do this, even when we are out here, we see a sister from Uganda, Nigeria, and so on, and we are looking at them like strangers and so on. So these are some of the things that we have to try to correct. So to talk about our association, I would like to share, Margaret, if it's possible, to share what we have been doing in the community. Maybe this would inspire other organizations, okay?
You can go ahead and click the share screen button.
So I would just skip a few slides and go directly to the point of my Canadian story. As I said at the beginning, I summarized it under this quote from Douglas Adams. That's not important. Let me just go directly to the Cameroonian Association. So as I said, this was for 2019. One of the key aspects of association is that we try to build bridges through this soccer tournament that we organize every year. And as you can see here, you have a Cameroonian team from Ottawa, from Brampton, and then at the bottom here, the Nigerian team. You also have the Ghanaian team from Hamilton, and you have this team, which is a team by an Eritrean, who is one of our main sponsors, the High Tech Garage. So we try to partner and also shine a light on other African businesses in the area. So A to Z is one of our main sponsors. I'm sure if you live in the area, you would have shopped there. For those of you, you can also visit the High Tech Garage on Victoria Street. They sponsor us during our activities, and they decided to register a team. So at the end of that activity, of that soccer tournament, we always organize a gala tournament, and these are some of the images from last year, and handing over ceremony of the trophies done during that gala evening. So other activities we take part in to make sure that other people know that we are present in the community. We have to put our culture out there. We can't be ashamed of who we are, okay? So we have to be proud, and this is ROWAC participating in Bring on the Sunshine. I think it's 2018. It's Mayor of Kitchener, and we went there in our traditional attires to express ourselves in the way we feel and our culture. So we also made it on the front page after that event, Waterloo record, images from that Bring on the Sunshine. We participate in Multicultural Festival here in Kitchener. This is the Cameroonian stand, Victoria Park. And COVID-19 came, and we also thought that it is important that we engage the community. We help those who are in a very tough spot. So we organized a drive, and the association ROWAC supported the food bank. And because of time, I'm just rushing over these slides. We provided, I think, foodstuff worth about $600 to the food bank. And this was all due to the contributions of our members. So the objective of our association in a nutshell is to foster solidarity between members, and our association is open to Cameroonians and friends of Cameroon. It might be shocking for you to know that we have Congolese as members of our association. We also have Kenyan member of the association, and they have the same rights and benefits like all other Cameroonians. So we have to put that the key. Promote socioeconomic cultural values, which I've shown through those images, help members in times of needs. When you lose a parent, we try to commune with you or a family member. When you find yourself in a difficult situation, if we can do something financially, our bylaws guide us on how to support members financially. We also facilitate your integration into the community. For the kids, we have a kids club where we teach them some of those things you learn as kids when you grow up in Africa, so that they continue to maybe have a contact with the continent, despite the fact that they are growing out here. So I have rushed over what the Cameroonian Association has been doing since inception from 2008, when it was legally registered as an association, till now. We have had 12 years of existence doing different activities in the area, and we are more than happy to collaborate with all other organizations out there, build relationships, and maybe eventually form a strong African association that would continue to do the job that we all want done. Okay, so I will stop there for now and stop sharing so that we can get to questions.
Wow, wow, wow. I'm so excited. My head is so big right now. I was making notes about ideas for conversations that we have to keep having, which we're absolutely happy to facilitate as the Association of African Graduate Students, and also as an association of UW alumni, you know, in the region and beyond the region. We have a few minutes left to us. I have some questions for the panelists, but I also want our participants to ask their questions based on the things that you've heard, concerns that you might want to share, an aspect of more information that you want from any one of the panelists. So at this time, let me ask, if you are comfortable, please turn on your video. It'll give us an opportunity to recognize you on the street if we run into you. You know, sometimes I run into people in the grocery store and I don't want to be too forward and ask, you know, are you African or whatever? And sometimes I ask because, hey, it doesn't matter. But If you're comfortable with turning on your camera, please do so. If you're not, continue to leave it off. And if you have questions at this time, now is a good time to drop it in the chat or use the raise hand function to indicate that you'd like to ask a question, and we'll invite you to do so. Margaret, do we have questions in the chat? Hands raised?
Not yet, but I do have a question for Wokia. I liked what you said about an informational interview, because I think many times we approach interviews with the intent of, let me talk to this person to get a job. I'm wondering if you can just elaborate on how that concept came up and what you actually do in an informational interview and how it has benefited you, whether or not you got the job in the end. And then we will have Brenda speak next as well. She has a question. She has her hands raised.
Okay, thank you very much. I think this was advised to me by my brother-in-law, who had moved here, I think a year and a half or 2 years earlier, and has experience in this domain of jobs and interviews and so on. So he said it is maybe a softer way of maybe getting the person you want to talk to open the door for you. Because if you put them under the pressure that they should give you a job, they might not respond positively. And at times they would not, because they don't respond positively, they don't even get to know you. So by requesting an informational interview, highlighting the fact that you are new to the country and you have this background in economics or whatever your field is, and you just want to find out what type of work they are doing, you've read their work and so on. And please don't say you've read their work when you haven't, because you might be forced to discuss some of it. It is even better if you read 1 or 2 papers from the professors and then maybe share your ideas, especially if you're in the same field. And then that way they might take a liking to you. They might see your point of view. And some of these professors have budgets for research, and they might be thinking, why not bring him on board to come and execute in this area, or to come and help us focus on this area, especially if your professor is working in Africa and you're an African. Of course, they would want to have an African on board who can at least guide them in that area. So there is no pressure on the part of the professor you're requesting that interview from, because they don't have to give you a job. You're requesting an interview just to know more about university, know more about their work, and tell them about what you do. That's a way of getting that contact. But if you don't do that and you're saying, I want to be your research assistant and so on, they simply just tell you, I don't have space for that, and so on. And you never get to show them who you really are, because you can't do that in, let's say, a resume.
Christine, you're muted. Yeah. Thank you for that, Wokia. Brenda, would you like to go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question?
Hi, well, thank you so much for organizing this really great event. One of the challenge I have observed over the years is how difficult it is to get a job outside of the university sphere. And so for my own experience, I've had TA jobs and research assistant jobs, but it's been incredibly difficult to get anything outside of the university space. So I would like to hear more of your perspective on how to go about that. And actually, Jean, you are talking about a little bit about your experience with the working center, and I'm wondering how that has helped newcomers from Africa to be able to get their leg into the employment environment. So yeah, I would like to hear more about that, because it's been really difficult to be able to find something outside of the university space.
Sure. Before Before we get responses from the participants, I'd just like to acknowledge that we're coming to the top of the hour, the time we allocated for this, but we still have access to the platform. So if you're willing to stay on and continue engaging, please feel free to do so. If you unfortunately have to leave us at this time, we regret to lose you, but you're free to do so. This session is being recorded, and we're going to make the recording available on our YouTube channel, so you'll still have access to all of the great stuff that we'll share. So I think it was, the question was for Jean-Claude, and I also remember that Ayo said something about transitioning to work. So yeah, please respond to Brenda.
All right, thank you, Brenda. Yeah, so personally, I will say, obviously, I'm not into the academics, but something that I think I've learned from my, previous years of obviously being, searching for a job and all that is, and I know it may sound like, one of those cliches is, networking is really, really important, but sometimes again, it's really hard to know the people to network with. So personally, I worked for the Working Center as an employment counselor for a few months, and I realized that the Working Center itself, I don't know if you know where it's located, it's in Waterloo, in Kitchener, Queen Street, just downtown Kitchener. So for many years, the Working Center was a place where people will go for, let's say, factory jobs and all those kind of things. And but over the years, it has become more than that. I've seen people with like PhDs, people coming from Egypt with, some physics degrees, coming there. And they have now allocated some specific employment counselors to help people in the academia kind of like find work that's related in their field. Now, at times, the process itself can be quite lengthy because they're working with you to literally kind of like guide you or to walk together towards, hopefully booking you something. So we have employment counselors. So when you go to the Working Center, for instance, they will assign you an employment counselor, and based on your needs and experiences, that employment counselor will work with you slowly by slowly. You'll apply for jobs, you will apply for sometimes even like internship opportunities. They also are very connected with the community. So I don't know what fields someone might be looking at, but if let's say you're in a field of economics, they're really well connected with the University of Waterloo. But again, just based on your needs, they can help you transition there. But what I want to highlight is that it's usually a process itself, and it's a process that can be quite it needs a lot of patience, obviously, but the Working Center really has people and resources that can help you or work with you through that, just like the process of you finding work. So for me, honestly, a lot of it was, just knowing the science behind, like I say, I work for the government, and, it's very competitive to get in, but believe me, there is always a science behind, how to answer those questions. So things like, informational interviews from a public servant or from someone within your field can be really, really, helpful in helping you to know how to put your face or your foot inside the door, right? So I highly encourage you to do that, but also consult people as well. That's why we have platforms like this, people who work in the industry, like, I don't know, Ayo, if Ayo works in this field as well, he might have some kind of like, mentorship to provide or some tips and guidelines, but also just having this network itself, so myself, I'm a professional, Ayo might be a professional, Dr. Kumase as well might be a professional. So this kind of like helps us create a pipeline of people that we can always refer to. And if it means, sharing ideas, we can always do that. But of course, the Working Center for me is a place where I highly recommend people to just walk in there, find someone, tell them your story, and they'll be able to assign you someone to guide you through that process. But again, professors, professors are well connected within the community. Personally, I still have a very good relationship with my professors from the University of Waterloo. They know so many people within the government itself, so they can easily guide me as well. So I cannot, overemphasize the importance of, keeping that professional relationship with your professor, and they can also, point you to the right direction. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Jean-Claude. That was actually a very insightful response and something for us to consider. So my take home is informational interviews and connecting with the working center, or people like Ayo who are in this employment space and understand the infrastructure and can give you instruction on how to navigate it. We have a guest on our meeting who would like to share from their perspective. Isaac, if you would like to unmute and share your perspective on this question, would appreciate it.
Yeah, hi everyone. Fortunate to be here today to meet everyone. At least I can put a face to when I get to see anyone in town. So from my perspective, I've been in Waterloo in Canada like 2 years now. My wife actually just graduated from University of Waterloo on Ymca Program as well. So I figured a lot of things happening within the African community. And firstly, I believe, everyone we all have our goals and personal goals and family goals that, that is most important for us to actually achieve. And from what I've seen with few clients that I've really worked with from the African community, I feel people are not just informed, especially from the young people as well. I've seen people who studied, law from a very good university, who have the information that, yeah, IT is paying. IT, there's so much money, in IT, that everybody is moving towards that direction to study IT as well. And also, I also figured that individually we have, so many goals that we really, really want to achieve, personally for ourselves and our family. If we can really stick to like 3 or 4 things that we want to achieve, because the future of the African community still lies with the generations coming. People who have spent years in this country who couldn't achieve much should actually lay good ground for the young people coming. For them to actually have a better landing, to really achieve their goals. I didn't want to just share much about that. Maybe during the next meeting, I can explain better.
Thank you so much for your contribution, Isaac. I just want to read out a few comments that have come out from the chat. We have a comment here from Blessing saying, as Africans, we're not really given to the long-term visioning and planning. How can we simplify this process for new Canadians at different stages in their life in a way that benefits the direct and indirect community as a whole? Brenda goes on to say that in job hunting, I would like to say candidates need to ensure that they are aligned to 2 main factors: task, which is the job responsibilities, and the organizational values. It is not enough to highlight your expertise, but tell us why we would like to spend 8 hours of every day with you. And I think that's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that. In the interest of time, I think we should address maybe 2 more questions if they're there, and then we'd just like to officially close off. This has obviously been a very inspiring discussion, and we can talk more about it later in the future series. But we have 2 questions here. One from Irene Matumba, which says, good stuff. What is your next action working together? So if we think about how we have come here together today, what are the next steps we could take in terms of building the community? Ayo mentioned the Jewish effect. I think the book about the Jewish effect. How can we borrow from other cultures and make sure that we're supporting ourselves? Everyone can participate in that question. You can maybe give your feedback in the chat. How can we move from here to work together?
If you don't mind me quickly jumping in, there are a few things that a few of us are currently working on right now. So number one is we're calling it Operation Run for Office. And our goal is in 2 years, when there's an election in the Kitchener-Waterloo area, our goal is to try to get 3 Black people, whether Caribbean or African, to be elected for public office. For us, this is important because representation for our people is non-existent right now. And one thing that always blows my mind is we want people to think about us when were not in their line of sight or trajectory or vision at all. So if you want someone to think about you and direct things in the direction you want it to go, then you need to put one of your people there to be able to do that. A few of us from there is the Caribbean Association, the African Canadian Association, and Women's Alliance, I believe is the name of the third group. The leadership of those groups are coming together and putting a plan in place for something like that. There's another group that is working on developing the leadership qualities of different African associations. So their training is being put together that will start soon. And my encouragement for everyone is please get involved. We're in dire need of people. It seems there are a lot of PhD candidates on this call. Please, we need your expertise. We need your knowledge to be able to really help move our community forward. We can't do it alone. We have to figure out how to do it together.
Well, thank you for that, Ayo, because that was the thing we were going to invite panelists to share, reflect on just as we close up. How do we engage? What are the spaces in which you'd like us to participate? I noticed that Wokia has unmuted himself, and I think that he'd like to share a thought on this as well. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to do that. Again, as I indicated, this is just the beginning of a series of conversations. And so from all of the thoughts that have been shared, we're going to sort of generate a list of themes for subsequent discussions, because we've just started what we believe will continue to be a strong movement that will build and amplify our voices as persons of African descent in the region. So Wokia?
Okay, I just wanted to follow up on what Ayo just said and say that it is very important that we do things correctly. To start with, Blessing mentioned having a long-term vision. Even within some of our associations, we don't have a vision. We do things sporadically. We just get up one morning and decide, oh, let's celebrate Independence Day this year, and then the next bureau comes and then everything is forgotten. We don't put in place a plan to say, what would the association be in 10 years? What do we want it to look like for those who are going to come here in 10 years? And that has been the problem. And as I said, within the Cameroonian community or within the association, we have always thought that it is important for us to work with different associations. When we started our activities, organizing soccer tournaments and gala evenings, we focused on inviting other Cameroonians from Montreal, Toronto, London, and so on. And at the end, we realized that this wasn't working for us. We have other Africans here in Kitchener-Waterloo region. We have Sudanese, we have Eritreans, we have all these people, Nigerians, and we organize a party, and our focus is on bringing Cameroonians from thousands and thousands of kilometers away. When we have brothers and sisters close to us, we could come together and get to know ourselves better. So if we can start by doing that, every time a small association has something, I don't have anything against people meeting within the confines of their national identity and so on. But if you are doing something, invite other associations, invite the Cameroonian Association, invite the Sudanese Association. That way, when a Sudanese is running for office, Cameroonians will know who that Sudanese is. If it is under an umbrella association that we cannot recognize the person and you're only seeing placards when you're driving along the roadside, I don't think it would be motivation enough for us to maybe mobilize people within our association and say, let's go and vote that brother in office or that sister into office. So let's get to know each other. Through our soccer games, I can say here that the Nigerian team you even saw on the flyers, I was the one struggling to put them together because they came and they were playing with us. And you know how we do pick-up games back in Africa. We don't ask where you come from. So they saw us Cameroonians playing and people start coming from all over and we welcomed everybody. And I have got to know a lot of Nigerians I didn't even know existed within this area. So I am saying, if I see one of them running for office, I would be able to go to the association and say, we have a Nigerian brother running for office. Let's make sure we go out and vote. But if I had not known them through soccer, I might just take it like any other Black person out there and maybe don't even vote myself. So I think we have to do the little things first before we start trying to, I am not discouraging people from running for office now, but I think that that's a better way of mobilizing the African community to put people in office. We should participate in each other's activity and support each other. A Nigerian event does not mean that it should be only Nigerians present. A Cameroonian event should not only have Cameroonian present. We cannot keep ourselves within the confines of our nationality, and then when elections come, we want all Africans to vote somebody. It would not work that way. So I just wanted to add that to say, when we have activities, if it's Congolese, if it's Nigerian, if it's Ugandan, Kenyan, and so on, please invite us. We are on Facebook, the Cameroonian Association, ROWAC. We have a YouTube channel as well where we post videos of our activities. If you invite us, we are going to show up. If it's financial contributions, we are going to make our financial contributions because we want to build that relationship and get to know our brothers and sisters. That's what I wanted to add to that.
Thank you so much, Wokia. I'm going to turn it over to Margaret to close out our session now. But first, I want to thank everyone who is here. Shout out to Liz, shout out to all of our panelists. Let me start from our awesome panelists. Thank you for sharing your stories, your experiences, your aspirations for Africans in the region, and the ways that you want us to engage. So thank you, all of you. And I will be in touch. For all of the things that you've mentioned, I'll definitely be in touch. Thank you for our shout out to our strategic advisor, Margaret Matumba, all the way from Uganda. We celebrate you for joining us. Thank you so much. Thank you, Isaac. And thank you for expressing in your comment your willingness to engage in future conversations. We'll definitely be calling on you, so do not shut off your channels. Lem, thank you for joining us. Messi Onoha, Gwendolyn Nubila, thank you very much. T, in the chat, let us know what your full name is, T, so that we know how to recognize you beyond this time. Nkongo Ngasu, I hope I have said that name correctly. Shout out to you. Thank you for joining us. Francis, thank you for joining us. GC, also let us know what your full name is, GC, so that we can acknowledge you outside of this platform. Thank you, Blessing Akan, for joining us and for your comments. Maria, thank you so much. Mal Odol, thank you so much. And AFWAF, so that's the African Women's Association. And I can totally envision another session with you talking about issues that specifically affect African women transitioning from student life to professional life, or just basically helping their own children to make those sort of transitions successfully, the way that Jean-Claude's mom did for him. Shout out to your mom, Jean-Claude. Okay, so Margaret, would you wrap us up? Thank you.
Thank you so much. This has been such an informative and enriching discussion, and we definitely need more of this. Just before we wrap up, one, I would like to take a group photo of all of us. So for those who are comfortable putting on your camera, please do so, and I'll do that. Also, would like to hear your feedback on what you thought of this session and other sessions that we should have in the future. So I dropped our email in the link below. Again, don't forget to follow us on our social media. We want to highlight again that the University of Waterloo African Graduate Student Association is a peer-led initiative. So we want to be able to have you participate in how this organization is able to facilitate your needs. We need to be responsive to the needs of our communities. So be as candid and transparent as possible as to the things you need. And this wraps up our first session. I must say that I personally think it was successful. Please follow us on our social media platforms to find out about more sessions that will be coming up in the future. Once again, in the effort of supporting each other, if you know an organization, an individual who is doing something in our community that we could all benefit from, or who we could support, please also drop that information in our email, and we'll be happy to support one of you. So I'm going to take our group photo. So smile if you're if you're not ready. 1, 2, 3. Excellent. And we'll see you all next time. Have a lovely weekend. God bless you.
So, whoa, that was, we're grateful. We're absolutely grateful. That went really well.
Hold on, I'm just trying to, all right, remove. Oh, Christina.
That went really well. That went really, really well. And we didn't go